pulled the water pump pulley off and then that front main pulley. So I'm gonna take the timing cover off. Still trying to deal with that bolt on the alternator. Gonna try and use the Dremel here and cut it square and see if we can do something about it. I already had to order one. It was $17 to get it here in time, so hopefully it pays off. I took and cleaned a lot of this stuff. It was pretty gnarly before and it's looking a lot better now. The lower timing cover, and it just looks ate up, like I can see a hole right there. So I may just end up purchasing a new one of these because this one's seen better days. Okay, we got the bolt out. A lot more threads than we initially thought. And because of the sway bar, the angle at which we were trying to drill it out, we went through the threads a little bit, but not enough that that hole is damaged. So alternator's just kind of sitting there for now. It's still got a couple electrical connections that I haven't taken out yet. I went ahead and ordered up the new one, so we'll get it in there. Since that bottom timing cover was ate up, I decided to get a new one. So now I've got brand new lower timing cover, cleaned up old one. Got the OEM alternator bolt. I think I'm going to put some anti-seize on it so that way don't have this issue in the future. Now I need to make sure cylinder 1's at top dead center before I move on to take anything else out. So I have the screwdriver in the first cylinder there. I'm going to rotate this guy around until it's at top dead center, and then at which point that screwdriver should be further up, and that'll allow me to know that it is at top dead center. Once that happens, I'll take some crescent wrenches and clamp these two hex portions and then vice grip it together. Got the 21 on here for the big guy, and we'll kind of just look at that. I think I'm pretty close.
21, can you do something for me? 21.
So that feels like it's top dead center there, because if I keep going, it's gonna rotate back down. So, let's see. Nope, just passed it. All right, it's feeling about correct. Another way we can tell is that guy on the back there. If that arrow is pointing down into the divot like it is, then that's top dead center. So now I've got to clamp these guys up and see if we can zap that bolt off. I wasn't totally loving it, so I added a second one. It's still just a little funky there. I'm trying to tighten it as much as I can. There's not really a way to lock these guys in here though, so kind of just do what we can. It should still be enough to make it so it's not gonna loosen though. I also dropped the sway bar supports. There's just 4 screws there and 2 more on the other side. That allowed it to get pushed down. I had to move the AC line out of the way so I can get this as far down as it can go, so I can get this impact drive on it. I'm gonna have to have somebody sit in the car in 5th gear, foot on the brake, e-brake pulled, because my e-brake is not doing enough to hold it in place. So we're gonna try and just zap it in one go. Pray to God that it doesn't move any of the timing, and then if it doesn't, we're off to the races. Let's see if this works. It's not slipping. Which, I mean, I guess is good and bad, right? Like,
well, you're not stripping it, that's good, and the wheels aren't moving, nothing's moving.
yeah.
So now it just means you gotta get something with more leverage, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping the 500 foot-pounds was gonna do it, but went ahead and installed all the fans and other radiator cap, all the hardware on here, so it's ready to be put back in. Tried to clean out some of the gross grime down here with just this little pick. It worked decent and it's looking better, but there is still just a ton of buildup. So we'll have to see about cleaning that before we're putting stuff back together. In the process of taking all the heater core hoses off right there. And that one's gonna be a little tricky to get to. You can just barely see the hose clamp down there. So got this guy off and got the hose that matches that perfectly there. But then I'm gonna try and get this one off so we can put it back on. So I'm just using the little tiny 1/4 drive. May need to adjust here, but we'll see. Hopefully this works. Got them both off. The fittings on all of them are pretty gnarly, so I may end up trying to clean off some of these because they don't look so good. But I do have all the new hoses to put on. Should be a lot easier. Even with the gloves, I just had to rip and then of course smash my finger into stuff. So there might be a better way to do it, but I don't know how. So we're gonna keep pushing. So just using the Dremel and the wire wheel there, I was able to clean up that fitting quite a bit. This hose was pretty ate up, so happy to be putting on the new ones there. I took the Dremel and filed some of these down, and this one's looking like it might have a hole in it, which I'm not super excited about, so may end up having to replace this whole intake neck. I'm also realizing how much shorter some of these hoses are, so I may end up having to snip some of them to fit. I'm seeing a trend here with all of these hose fittings. They're just totally ate up around the end here. I keep trying to clean them off with the wire wheel, but you can only do so much. Got the new coolant neck / thermostat housing in. It's gonna replace this guy, so we'll go ahead and remove those bolts. And we'll probably just keep them in there just to keep everything, copacetic. Don't forget where anything is. Finally got the crankshaft bolt off. I did that just by dropping the car and then using a big breaker bar, and then went ahead and removed the camshaft gears, removed the timing belt. Timing belt itself actually wasn't too bad. I may keep it just as a spare. The timing gear itself said it was replaced about 60,000 miles ago, so it's not terrible, but it was one of those quality of life things where I was like, I don't know, I'd rather just, do it myself, make sure that I have sort of knowledge on whether or not it was replaced. Took a look at these Allen keys down here. It looked like something was leaking from here, so went ahead and loosened those up. I got some thread sealant that I'm gonna put in there after I clean this up, get them back in there. Got to remove all of this RTV off because there's 6 spots here, 2 there, and 2 in the back, which you can't see because of the bag. But I'm gonna get all that off, remove the idler and the tensioner, try and take out that big boy. I've heard a lot of people have issues with that one, so we'll see. All right, and for funsies, oh shit, did I just drop the woodruff key? I did. Oh, it almost just went in the coolant. Oopsie. No rust. That's phenomenal. After everything else went wrong with this, I'm glad that was easy, because I would have not been having a good time. Been working on this project for too long. I had to use a dead blow hammer to get this off, and it looks like rather than just buying the O-ring, somebody used some RTV. So clean that up a bit. I got a brand new O-ring, so I'm gonna put it on there when we go to install everything. So I got the old water pump off. A reoccurring theme I'm seeing is just sealant everywhere, rather than, it looks like they used gaskets as well, but then just doubled up with sealant, and I don't know why. Like, look at all that. It's just more stuff I have to clean. But this is the type of water pump that we want, is that sort of impeller type. They're made a lot better, and I've been trying to get my hands on one for a minute here. So I got this one from Gates. It is the propeller type, and I didn't really like it, so I went through Fab 9 tuning to try and get an impeller type. So like I said, I went through Fab 9 tuning because the description of their item said we only send out the Gates impeller type that's higher quality, and then they went ahead and sent me another stamped steel propeller type. So I'm in the process of trying to work with them to get a new one because they sent me the wrong product, which is just further delaying this project. So I've just been getting screwed over on parts lately. So I just got the hose off the coolant mixer. Oops, you can totally see the line that I just cut there because the hose was stuck on there, and I was like, I'm just gonna cut it. Well, that's probably gonna be an issue. That's the other side. It's significantly more rusted, so I'm thinking about just removing these bolts here, cleaning up the whole fitting. But since I have the new hoses, I didn't really care. So now I need to get this last little fitting off. There's an O-ring in there. I'll probably take the whole unit off and clean it up because, like I said, there's RTV all over it. Kind of hard to see, but that is the O-ring on there that's going to be replaced. So go ahead and take it off. It actually is pretty springy, feels pretty fresh, but I got a new one, so adios. And then this is the part that I took off. The O-ring just goes, seats right in there. Trying to use the shop towels to clean it up. May have to go a little more aggressive with it though. Cleaned it up as best I could. Used a wire wheel on the fittings. Just cleaned it up. Got the RTV and the gasket off. But note to anyone that does this in the future, if you are planning on doing this more than once or owning the car for a long time, don't put RTV with the gasket because it makes the gasket stick to it and it's very difficult to get off. So I'm not excited to try and get this off without getting it in there. So I may put some shop towels in there and then try and use the Dremel just to get it off, get it flat so it has a nice mounting surface. They used so much sealant that it got into the threads of the bolt. So I ended up using one of these multi-use transfer pumps to get all of the coolant out of there. So now that's all empty, but I still have all of this gasket around it that I need to get off before we can seal anything else up. So I just have this little plastic scraper. I'm going to try and stuff some shop towels in there so we don't get anything in there and then scrape it. I decided not to use the Dremel just because I'm a little worried with the aluminum block that it's going to mar it and then the mating surface won't be flat. So just going to try and plastic scrape it off, make sure it's very flat, very clean, and go from there. I've been using a lot of brake clean trying to get everything else nice and clean, cleaning up the bolts, cleaning up all the other parts that I took off. Only other part that I need to use the scraper on is these guys, because these are the known leak points. These here, and then the one in the back, right back there. So those are kind of the, whatever, 4-6 spots that people put the RTV on the valve cover gasket. So gonna go ahead and scrape those off, and then we'll continue with the rebuild. Scraped all that off, got a bunch of the RTV sort of gasket sealant stuff off of these guys, and then the last part that I was gonna do, I was like looking at this and I was like, oh, that's annoying. They put a little ring around it. I didn't realize this entire thing is a gasket maker because there's an O-ring that goes there, and I guess a lot of people just don't bother to buy it, so they just fill it with a gasket maker or sealant, and now I gotta remove all of that because I actually bought the O-ring. Then we'll take out the camshaft seals and the front main seal down here because I got replacements for both of those. That one I'm a little worried about putting in, but these guys shouldn't be an issue.